Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? This is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy with Jason. This is a very special edition because I get to talk anything and everything I want to talk about when it comes to Digital Dealer in Tampa, which I'm very excited to go to. It's been a while. I feel like I haven't been there in a while. It's like Florida. I'm looking forward to going to Florida, Hannah. That's what I'm looking forward to go. I want sunny Florida. That's what I am. But today I'm with the one, the only, the oh so famous Miss Hannah Lifson. What's going on, Hannah?
Jason, wow, I need to have you start doing all my intros. That was awesome.
Hey, I am for hire. You can bring me on anytime if you need a little, McMinn style, like coming to the stage now. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. Actually, you know who does that really well is actually Dane Seville. But anyways, I digress. Hey, Hannah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. This is going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, we get to talk everything about Digital Dealer in Tampa. It's literally right around the corner, and I'm so excited to go. I'm excited to see you in person. Excited to hear what you're going to talk about. You have some great stuff you're going to talk about. We're going to get into that later today. But before we kind of get into that, I love kicking off these conversations with an origin story. And I'll be honest with you, selfishly, it's for me because I'm always fascinated how people get started in this world we call the automotive industry. So Hannah, how did you get started in this crazy world we call the automotive industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, I think you had said earlier, in a previous conversation of ours, typically people get into automotive in one of three ways. They
Yeah.
stumble into it, they get conned into it, or they're born into it. And I think I fall a little bit into the con and the stumble.
Okay.
So I'll elaborate on that a little bit. So I was wrapping up college and I had always loved sports. I'd always loved marketing. So I thought, hey, sports marketing, that's probably where I'll end up. Dream job would have been like a broadcaster on the field, but something where I
Nice.
could be in an arena. I grew up playing sports. I've just always been a big spectator. So I thought, hey, if I can combine the two, this would be perfect. I had landed a job actually right at the tail end of my senior year with the AAA team for the Giants in San
Fun.
Francisco. And I was like, wow, this is perfect. I really loved it. We even went to the World Series. But,
Wow.
of course, sports seasonal. So as the season concluded, I kind of had to make a choice. Was I going to stay, in my college hometown, or was I going to, maybe branch off and go do something else? I had a girlfriend who was in a pretty well respected college around the area. It's called St. Mary's, if you're familiar
Oh
with
yeah, yeah.
it. Yeah, with the basketball team. They have an awesome after grad program. So I said, hey, would you mind if I just took a peek in your portal and kind of saw what was at least generally local? I thought maybe there'd be some sports opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, the San Francisco Giants were looking for hire, and I thought, oh man, this would be perfect for me. So I went ahead and I submitted my resume through her portal and surprised them when I showed up. And I also saw another tech startup company in the San Francisco Bay Area for a small company. They only had about 10, 15 employees, but they were in the automotive space, digital automotive space, and they were planning a huge elaborate party that they needed help with. What I didn't know was this was NADA at the time.
Okay.
So I took both interviews. I was really impressed with both companies and I got both positions. So I actually had to make a choice. I called back the Giants and said, thank you so much for this opportunity, but I'm actually going to have to pass. And they were just stunned. They said, we normally are doing the rejection calls. Like this typically doesn't happen. But what I thought was, hey, this is a startup company. This is in the tech space. I don't think this is necessarily, tech's always going to be evolving. This could be a great chance to get my feet wet and something that's right here in my local community, as well as baseball's not going anywhere. It's been around for 100 years. If they wanted to hire me out of college, what if I just, minimally even got 6 more months under my belt in marketing and came back to them?
Mm-hmm.
So with out further ado, I accepted the offer, and wow, it just kind of set me into automotive. That was almost 10 years ago. And it was just phenomenal. Now, what I didn't know necessarily, although I did do a bit of research, was My executive team at the company I was originally at was just, I mean, unbelievable. And just to name a few names, someone like Dean Evans, who you may remember from Subaru or
Oh, yes.
Hyundai, now at Cars.com. He was our CMO. Len Short, who had just come from AOL. Denise Chuddy, who was at Google and Cars.com. I mean, it was just this
That
powerhouse
is a
of
powerhouse.
marketers. And there were only 10 or 15 of us. So I definitely had their ear. I was able to sit in on meetings that I probably wasn't experienced enough to be in. But it was really awesome. One of the other, not executive staff, but he was on the board. His name was Mark Boyd, if you've met him before.
Hmm.
And he was the one throwing this party at NADA and needed some help. So I helped him, set up a party for a huge guest list, private VIP experience. And the second I got to the party, not only did I love the event planning and all that went into it, of course, but I really fell in love with the people on the guest list who happened to be dealers. They had a lot of personality. They were very exciting. They knew how to party. And I wasn't bored. I was entertained. They were a blast, and I fell in love. Shortly after NADA had concluded, I got a call from my boss, my CMO at the time, and he said, "Hey, with the success of the event, we've decided we're going to do a trade show. Can you be in Florida on Friday?" I said, "No problem. When do I come home? What are sort of the event details?" And he said, "Well, you're going to come home in 3 months." I said, "Oh, oh."
3 months.
I said, "Oh, excuse me." And he said, "Surprise, we signed up for a road show with General Motors, and you're going to do 18 cities in
Wow.
90 days." And I mean, that really just gave me a taste of automotive that I didn't even know.
That is definitely a baptism to
Yeah.
automotive in a huge way, right? Like, let's just go from like, here's a little appetizer. All right,
Yeah.
now you get an entree, and then it's like, okay, are you ready for the next 18-course meal? Because here it comes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But you know what? It is one of those industries that once it kind of gets in your blood, it is really difficult
Mm-hmm.
to get it out. Now I love baseball, so as I'm listening to the story, and I'm going, huh, that would have been a really tough call. I love baseball. I love automotive. I don't know if I were you in those shoes, if I could have gone automotive. I think I may have gone, and I'm actually a big Giants fan too, so that would have been
Okay.
really tough for me to go that way. But hey, you did, man. You landed the ability to work with some serious powerhouse of
Mm-hmm.
some people in our industry, especially when it comes to marketing, just operational understanding. So I can see why you got into a place that just, I mean, you just had some amazing mentors. So that's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And like I said, it gets in your blood. You can't get it out, and you're stuck in the industry. There ain't anywhere you're going. So this is actually kind of a perfect segue into kind of what we want to talk about today is what you're going to be speaking at Digital Dealer in Tampa, because I think between all your experience and being able to work with some powerhouse individuals, why don't you give us a little highlights of what your talk's going to be like at Digital Dealer in Tampa?
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to. So, I mean, first and foremost, you're talking about powerhouses. For my session at Digital Dealer, I'm actually partnering up with three of my best friends in the industry. It'll be April Simmons from Horn Automotive Group, it'll be Lori Halter from Charisma Communications, and then Denise Casagrande at Galiantos from PCG Digital.
Exactly. Seriously, a whole nother powerhouse right there. I mean, come on.
I know it's a good group. And what we're going to be talking about is taking you from any consumer from your digital lot, if you will, to your actual physical garage, and sort of what is that process, and how can you make that quote unquote perfect. What we were doing some research, and we found in a pre-pandemic world, before 2020, only about 3% of transactions were actually happening online.
Hmm.
Now there's about 30% of
Yep.
transactions that are happening online. So how, now that we're sort of in this gray area where it's not 100% a normal world like it used to be, but is it ever going to go back? And how can you take all of our learnings and findings over the last couple of years, but incorporate them and tether them into some of your efforts that are timeless
Hmm.
and that still proven that are work. So we're not saying get rid of everything. It's a digital era. At the end of the day, this is still a relationship business, and people want to buy from the people that they like, they trust, and honestly, that they know at least on one level or another. So we'll take you guys through. We're calling it a roadmap, and we'll have three, kind of pit stops where myself, I'll be talking about some marketing opportunities and ways to optimize specifically with Google business profiles. Denise will be speaking about communicational commerce and how to connect with your consumers wherever they are. And then Lori Halter is going to be talking a little bit about the power of social media and keeping in touch, not just only pre-sale, but also post-sale so that they come back around again for service.
Well, and you know what? Talk about just such a timely topic as well, right? I mean, I find that as an industry, we get into trying times or opportunities, and we don't spend a whole lot of time kind of dissecting what really worked, what didn't. Because our industry is so built off of these 30-day windows, is that we get so pigeonholed, like just looking into what that next 30 days is going to be. And there are definitely an opportunity to dissect what's happened over the last 24 months and see what were the wins and what were the losses and how can we maintain. I'm talking about change. I mean, holy crap, did we go through some monster change in the last 24 months? And it's like this beautiful snowball of evolution and change. It's like, how do we keep that going? And I think it's absolutely awesome that you guys are not just going to talk about it, but you're going to bring a roadmap to identify what snowballs do need to keep rolling and how those snowballs can keep rolling within a dealership's operations and marketing efforts. Man, I'm stoked. And plus, listening to any one of those, amazing, talented women on stage is just going to be a lot of fun. Hey, if there's one or two things you really want someone to take away, all right, from your guys' session, what would that be?
That's a great question, Jason. That's why we're having April Simmons speak with us as well. So although Lori, myself, and Denise will be bringing in some of maybe our expertise from our specific fields in digital marketing, we're actually going to have April on stage with us, who works with the Horn Auto Group, 12 stores over the Metro Phoenix, Arizona area. And she's actually going to tell everyone in the audience how she's implementing these strategies, how to make them usable, tangible, and even be able to take something back and do it that day. We really wanted to make the presentation not just a bunch of numbers and stats and this is what we see, but we wanted it to come from the dealer's perspective so that she could speak to anyone in the audience regardless of position and say, hey, this isn't just something I learned and I can write it down in a notebook. It's, hey, I can get on my phone and I can try to start doing a few of these things today. So I think each one of us will be bringing something to the table, if you will, that you can probably implement before the session is even over.
And that's one thing I actually love about this conference. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do the whole run of all the conferences. I do the circuit, right? But there's just something about this conference. I think they always do a good job of balancing out vendor and dealers within the sessions, right? So you're not just left with a bunch of stats and here's a strategy, but you actually get to actually listen to somebody speak on how it can be executed and what are the first steps of execution. And April's a great person to learn that from. So I'm excited. I'll be front row. I'll be, someone wearing orange and going, hey, so I'm really looking forward to your guys' session. For everybody out there that's watching and listening right now, Hannah, I would maybe love to connect with you maybe prior to the event or even after the event. What's the best way to connect with you?
You can definitely find me on LinkedIn. I'm active. I'm easy to get in touch. If I'm not checking my messages every day, that would be a surprise. So if we don't know each other, feel free to say that you just saw me on the show and connect. I'd love to meet with you at Digital Dealer. We'll also have a booth. I'm 614, and then we're also speaking on Tuesday at 2:10 to 3:10 in one of the breakout sessions. So please just come by, introduce yourself. I'm happy to connect in any form or fashion that works for you.
Awesome. Hey, Hannah, thanks so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This has been a lot of fun. You have yourself an amazing day.
Awesome. You too. Thanks so much, Jason.